mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 5, Episode 8 of FX's Snowfall, entitled Celebration. I don't really know where to start. This episode was bad, man. Like, this was not a good episode of television. There's a lot of problems here that are gonna need to be discussed. This episode's titled Celebration because most of this episode takes place at Jerome and Louie's wedding, but I don't know. I feel like this show has jumped the shark at this point. You know, the whole situation with the tiger scene that was completely ridiculous, that didn't need to be here. They upped the ridiculous level this week with an episode that is replete with all sorts of illogical plot choices, goofiness, and a continue kicking the can down the road for the things that actually matter and that are important to the show that they've set up and have yet to even address, let alone pay off. This is a rough one. I don't even really know where to really start with this. There's a few scenes before the wedding starts that are important. Louis meets up with Teddy, ask him to supply her as well, with the full knowledge that Franklin's not going to like it and that he's going to potentially set up a conflict between Louis and Jerome and Franklin. And Jerome, when they're doing their wedding planning, Jerome's overly happy, like in a good mood. Like he said he hadn't lost his temper in a few weeks. He hasn't drank in a few days. Louis tells him that Teddy has agreed to supply them, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna get that drink. And it's just kind of how shows work. It seems like, you know, when a character seems to be at their best, that's when they are usually killed. Like if you think of like, you know, the classic kind of trope of like the police officer who's like one day from retirement and then he gets killed on the job. That's the vibe I'm getting from Jerome right now. Like he's mentally in a good place. He's in a position to where like he's, you know, finally can be happy with Louis. I think they're trying to like, at the very least, trying to get away from, I think, what we could consider be the toxicity of everything that surrounds Franklin. And if he still wants to sell drugs, like, okay, I could do it on my own with Louis. And even though he knows Franklin's not going to like it, Louis assures him that she's going to get Franklin on board or at least calm him down. So he has every reason to be in a good place, which makes me think that his days are numbered. I'd be shocked if Jerome makes it out of this season, which at this point, the direction that this show is headed, they announced, I think the other day, that it's been renewed for a 6th season, which will be the last one. I will watch that season solely because it's the last one, but the way this is going this season, the direction it's heading, and the idea that they might remove Jerome as a character from the show, it's not something that I'm going to be really looking forward to. Like as far as like covering it week to week, I probably won't even cover season 6. I'll probably just watch it on my own time casually because I'm not enjoying. I don't really like getting on camera and shitting on a show. I like it when the show is so bad or a movie is so bad, and I like it because I'm just get to rip into it for 20 minutes. But a show that I have enjoyed up to this point and that I have certain expectations of, this seeming like immediate descent into mediocrity since the midway point of this season is disappointing. It's not something that I'm going to get any joy out of. And talking about all the ways in which this show seems to be declining. So, it's hard for me. I don't know what they could do in episodes 9 and 10 to make me feel like it's something that I'm really going to want to cover next season for the final season, but I guess we'll see how this plays out. So let's talk a little bit about this shitty episode. Man, I don't even know where to start. Okay, I have so many questions. Okay, first, before the wedding, Veronique meets with Kane to basically say, yo, I heard you made a deal with Leon. I just wanted to make sure that was true so I can know if my kid is safe. I can know if I'm safe. I can know if my family is safe. And Kane's like, yeah, I agree to this. And the whole while I'm thinking, how the fuck does she know where Kane is at? Like, she should barely even know who he is, let alone where to find him. Like it was virtually implausible last week that Franklin and Leon knew where to find him. But they could look at it like, okay, they know him. So they're like, okay, he coaches. He's always coached this baseball team. Let's roll up to this park and see if he's there. Or football team. I don't know what team it is. Let's go see if he's there. I think it was a football team. I can at least kind of be like, I can, wrangle up something in my mind to explain how they were able to find him. How Veronique was able to secretly find him, I got nothing. Like, there's no way. There's just no way. Like, how would she know that? She's not even, like, really interacting with Franklin too much. And as a side note, for someone who says that she wants to distance herself from Franklin for the baby's sake, she sure spends a lot of time with Franklin in this episode. But I also, again, looking for ways to accept the things that don't really make sense. I could look at it like, well, Kane did say everything was cool, so maybe she's going to be cool with hanging more. But, for somebody who supposedly doesn't really want to hang out with Franklin anymore, or at least wants to keep some distance for the time being, she sure knows how to, like, get in touch with people that she should have no business knowing how to get in touch with. Like, I can't see her saying, like, hey, do you know where Kane hangs out with? I'd like to go talk to him. So assuming she did this in secret, I don't know how she found out about where he was at. So, like, that was just already, we're early in the episode. I'm just like, how the fuck is she here? And then the next, again, why the fuck is this person here? Why was Scully invited to the wedding? Like, I know they said they wanted some business associates to be there. So, like, Avi makes sense. Gustavo makes sense. Like, they were just, like, they just killed Scully's daughter not too long ago. I mean, I get that things are not in that space right now, but inviting him to, not even Franklin's wedding, to Jerome and Louie's wedding, inviting Scully, I was already thinking, like, why is he even here? Like, this is a weird turn of events. And then why would, like, did he spike the chocolate out of spite? Or does he think, like, oh, this is going to be funny. Everyone's going to have a really good time tripping balls at this wedding. I don't know what his motivation was to do something so strange. And here's the problem with the show. The show doesn't give a fuck about explaining it because the goal isn't for the events that lead up to this to make sense. The goal is just to have an episode where people are tripping balls for 66% of it and have a little bit of Franklin coming to some self-realizations to make it seem like it was worth it. But, like, it's just sloppy at this point. Like, it's like they decide where they want to go, and they just say, however we can get there, we'll do it. So they wanted to set up what is inevitably going to be Kane versus Franklin and his people, because we had the agreement that, Leon, the agreement with Leon that they were going to loop Kane into the business. Veronique goes up there and is like, hey, I just want to make sure we cool. I don't want any beef. I don't want any problems. I want to keep my kids safe. I know you made a deal. I want to make sure we're good. And Kane says, yeah, so that should be the end of it. But without that reassurance of the deal from Kane directly, we wouldn't even really have any way of knowing whether or not that was legit. But now we know that Kane means it. So the hit by Buckley that Louis set up, once it inevitably fails, because again, this is wildly predictable what's happening here. Once this inevitably fails, it's going to set up Kane versus Franklin and them, because he's going to be looking at it like, we had an agreement and you tried to kill me. And then it's also going to set up Louis and Jerome versus Franklin, because Franklin's going to look at it like, what the fuck did you just do? Like, why would you set up something like that? I had a deal with this guy, and, like, it's one thing for you to want to go off and do business on your own, but you to fuck up my business, like, that's a problem. So they're setting up these conflicts, right? And that's fine. But get us there in plausible ways. And to use, like, just be sloppily, just be like, yeah, let's have Veronique meet with Kane. Like, didn't no one in the writer's room go, how the fuck would she organize a meet with Kane? How the fuck would she even know who Kane is or where to go? Like, where does this come from? Fuck all that. Let's just get her there and not even worry about how we get there. And then they said, okay, we want Franklin to deal with his internal demons. How do we get there? Let's have Scully spike chocolate with LSD. That'll be funny. Like, no, that's fucking stupid. It's what it is. But hey, let's like never mind why Scully would be at this wedding. Never mind what his motivation would be to do something like that, especially when they did him a favor earlier in this season. Never mind all that. We just want to get Franklin to this self-discovery shit. So however we get there doesn't fucking matter if it makes sense. if it's goofy or not, whatever, we're just gonna do it. And that's why the show is losing its way. You know, I said earlier in the season that it's a show that doesn't waste a scene. I've been calling the show really smart for a very long time. And ever since like episode 5, it's gotten dumb as fuck. And I don't understand why they just decided to just it's like it became an entirely different show. Like we changed seasons. Like the first 5 episodes are one season, and you come back in a different season and it's something else. And you're like, whoa, what happened to my show? But just without a gap in between seasons. Just like it just became something totally different. And I don't understand why that is. Where I don't know where to go. During Franklin's trip, we do get some interesting moments of self-discovery, and we get some insight into his own internal struggles. He's struggling with what he had to do to Rob. He's having doubts about Veronique and his ability to be a father and have a family and be safe. He's having doubts about Teddy, whether or not he can trust Teddy. He pages Teddy and tells him he's going to kill him. That's another thing, another setup that I'm presuming they're doing to put Teddy and Franklin at odds, and which they don't even need to do that because Teddy and Franklin should already be at odds over Alton, but the show just said, fuck the Alton storyline. We're not even going to worry about that anymore. So, again, it's irritating me. Now I'm getting pissed off thinking about it because like you're setting up a new reason for Franklin and Teddy to have beef when you already got one. But you just said, fuck that one. We're going to ignore that for 8 fucking episodes. Like, whatever. And then he has doubts about himself and all the decisions he's made and how they impact himself and his family. And I did think that scene was good where Franklin was arguing with himself. The Franklin that wasn't dressed for the wedding. I think that was an interesting little monologue that I think allowed Damson to like really go over the top with it. And I think he did a good job. I thought that scene was pretty decent. So let me see, I'm at 12 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up, I think, with a few thoughts. There were some funny moments during this trip. They spent way too much time on the LSD trip, to be clear, and most of it was stupid, but they did have a couple of funny moments. I liked when Franklin was talking to Scully, and Scully's just, saying Scully shit, and Franklin just randomly like walked in a circle and just stood back back there again. I thought that was funny. And then when he said he had to pee, and then he like literally went sprinting, and then they show him later, and Jerome and Louie are looking at him. He's like dancing, and then he sees them looking at him. He just takes off running again. That stuff was funny. Then they had an opportunity, which again, in the vein of how badly this show is fucking up right now, and this isn't a huge deal, but it's something where I feel like this joke would have landed better if they didn't do what they did. But there's a moment where when Jerome and Louie, I've been calling Jerome Franklin a lot this season. I don't know why. I feel like I've been saying Franklin and Louie a lot when I mean Jerome and Louie. But Jerome and Louie are walking. This is post-ceremony. And they're like talking to each other, but like not acknowledging that the other person's talking. Like they're just saying what they got to say to the other person. And they're talking over each other, but they're both too high to notice. And in the background, there's like 2 people fucking like randomly at this wedding. They still got on their wedding clothes. And that scene would have been funnier if it was something that they didn't call attention to. Like if I almost called him Franklin again. If Jerome and Louie had just walked by and you just catch it, if you catch it, that would have made it funnier. But they showed it. Then they framed the shot where like Jerome and Louie are facing each other and the fucking is going on in the background in between. Then they move to the side and like they make sure like, hey, like they go, look at this. These 2 people are fucking, ha ha ha. It's like explaining a joke. Let it play in the background. If you see it, ha ha ha, that's wild. If you don't see it, you don't see it. But to stand there and linger in that with the background, like, hey, look at what's happening in case you didn't see it. Look, that ruined it. It's like, okay, man, like I thought it was funny when I saw it in the background. When the show was like hammering it home, like, hey, look at this. Then it was like, man, okay, you had something good and you fucked it up. So yeah, that was annoying. I thought it was lame that they ended the episode with the start of the attempted hit on Kane after we had to sit through this stupid fucking episode for all this time. And I'm thinking like, okay, let me see what happens to Kane. And they're like, credits. Like, fuck. Like I said, they kicked the can down the road with Alton. They kicked the can down the goddamn highway, down the interstate into another fucking state with Alton. And again, the same thing with Peaches. I've been interested in what's going on with Peaches since like episode 2. We are now next week hitting episode 9, and we have had no progress on the Where is Peaches front. And by the time they ultimately reveal whatever's going on with Peaches, I'm not even going to care. And at this point, I don't even know if they're going to do it. Like, they've been too busy fucking off doing other stupid shit, like running from tigers in the hood and tripping off acid at a wedding. Like, what the fuck happened to, like, the seriousness of this show? It used to be grounded. Now it feels fucking goofy and ridiculous and shit. But, yeah, nothing on Peaches, nothing on Alton. Again, they took the interesting stuff, said fuck this, and decided, yeah, let's just do dumb, goofy shit and stretch this shit out. Like, they only had 6 episodes of, like, quality television, and we're like, let's just give 4 episodes of stupid fucking events happening that are just completely implausible and illogical, and we'll just do that. That's the sign that the show is done. And then, lastly, and I cannot stress this enough, Perissa might be one of the worst characters I've ever seen on a show. What a useless fucking waste of a character this is. This woman who just randomly, Teddy just goes to her house after getting shot, and now her bit is that like she's horny over danger or horny over blood or injuries or whatever. And he's in Franklin's house, I'm assuming it's Franklin's house, taking pictures of paperwork, and we hear this dumb motherfucker moaning over the walkie-talkie. I'm like, oh my God, can we get this stupid fucking character off of the show? Like, what a waste of a character. Completely useless, completely uninteresting, and this shtick of like, oh, she's always horny whenever there's danger or something like that, or whenever there's blood or whatever, it's so dumb, and they've already worn it the fuck out. Perissa is terrible. Easily the worst character ever on this show. And I really can't think of a character that I thought was more pointless. Like, I'm sure there's been pointless characters on many shows that I've seen, but Perissa is a complete waste of time. Like, we don't even need her. Like, Teddy could have went to somebody else, some random person, got fixed up, and then everything that's happened with Teddy since could have happened without Perissa. Like, she's just sitting in the car for reasons that she don't even need to be there, for whatever fucking reason, to just be annoying and just like, oh, we should go out to dinner. Like, why are you here? Like, you're a nurse or something. Like, I guess she was a nurse somewhere else and now she can't do it here. You're a failed, like, why are you on these fucking spy trips with Teddy? Like, oh my God, I fucking hate this Perissa character. Like, what a waste. Yeah, so I'm going to end this one now. Yeah, bad episode. This show's going down the toilet real fucking fast. And I don't know. We got 2 left. I'm sure they're going to end fairly eventfully. I'm still sticking with my prediction on Peaches. I feel like they're probably going to kill Jerome, which is going to be another reason to not have any interest in season 6. And they continue to fuck off the interesting stories to waste time with Perissa and LSD trips and tigers and all of the kinds of stupid shit. So, yeah, it's looking bad. But I'll see you guys next week for episode 9. Peace.